So, for this example, we're going to be looking at the case of sine through trigonometry. The two essential questions you should always be asking yourself is, what are we looking for and which ratio do I use? When I talk about ratios, I'm referring to sine, cos, and tan. Now there are many ways to remember which ratio to use and what is required for each ratio, but the best way I find that helps me is to remember the SO, CA, and TOA method. So each one will tell me what information is required for each ratio. So for sine, I need an opposite and I divide that by my hypotenuse. For cos, I'm going to be using my adjacent, divide that by my hypotenuse. For tan, I'm going to be using my opposite over adjacent. So let's take a look at an example of a classic sine question. Say that I have a right angle, triangle, sorry. Now that did not come out the way I wanted it to. So I've got my classic right angle there. I've got an angle of, let's say, 17 degrees. I have a hypotenuse of 45 and I don't know what this is. So my first recommendation would be label your sides. If you label your sides, it really helps you to identify which ratio to use. So we know in our right angle triangle, the hypotenuse is always opposite to the right angle, and it is also always the longest side. Then we have x here. So x, which is the length, is opposite to our reference angle. If it's opposite to our reference angle, that means that this side is our opposite. As you can gather by this question, we're going to be using sine. But if we look at our ratios, look at what information we have and what we're looking for. We can eliminate cos because we haven't been given an adjacent and we have nothing for it, so we can cancel that out. Similarly, we can do that for tan too, because again, we don't have an adjacent. What we do have is our hypotenuse, and what we're trying to find is our opposite. So by process of elimination, we're going to be looking at sine. So if we look at the equation for sine, it's sine of an angle equals opposite over hypotenuse. Using the information given in this question, we'll be looking at writing sine of our reference angle, which is 17 degrees, equals opposite, which in this case we don't know what it means, over 45. So just like we did with algebra, we're going to have to rearrange this equation to make x the subject. So I'm going to multiply it out by 45 each time. In doing so, those will cancel out, and don't forget to what you do to one side you must do to the other. So if we multiplied it by 45 on the right hand side, so RHS for right hand side, we must multiply it by 45 on our left hand side as well. What we'll be left with is the following equation. So x equals 45 times sine of 17 degrees. You will type this into your calculator. Make sure that your calculator is in degrees mode, and what you'll get is x equals 13.16.